how surreal is this? And first of all, you see my little shirt.
You're wearing your We the People shirt.
Like we were so excited. We were so excited to I was so excited. I should speak for both of us.
So just to level set here, Misha, because I really know very, 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 very little about what has happened. I was sitting on the couch. I was playing video games. Adam came in and told me that Trump had been shot. And Misha was there, and we're going to talk to him to learn more. So, and the last I heard, because I just saw you the other day, and you said, oh, maybe I'll go to a Trump rally, maybe I won't. So, I mean, I guess just walk me forward from the last time I saw you.
There are like 3 different parts of the whole experience. Like, I feel like I would have loved and would have been running to talk to you anyway about just the experience of going to a Trump rally. It's our first rally. Like, I was already texting Adam and coming up with notes of things I wanted to say about the experience. So that's sort of like dangling there. I'd never gone to a Trump rally before. I wanted to. And then it just so happens. I mean, it's funny. The other day, I actually Googled, like, what is Trump's, what's the rally schedule like? Maybe there'll be one kind of close. And it just so happens the weekend we were coming to Pittsburgh to visit my family. He's here just outside of Pittsburgh. I thought, my goodness, let's do it. So we went to the rally, first rally. So there's like, the whole sociological experience, me observing that. And then this shooting happens. It's like we literally hear the shots. I'm seeing the sharpshooter, Secret Service people shooting, like I'm watching it while we're on the ground. And then now we're back watching the news and we're getting pieces of things that like we didn't see. So I'm like, my goodness, like on the news just now, we saw what seemed to be Trump's ear grazed by something. He's down. Then he gets up. There's blood on his face and ear, and they're surrounding him. Like, we didn't see that because we were on the ground. So it's like catching up with the news and trying to reconcile that with the experience of being there. So that's sort of what I'm going through now. It's intense.
I am interested in just giving it a bit of context in how you got to how you found yourself in a Trump rally. How you found yourself as a Trump voter, which is a bit of a follow up to our conversation last election cycle. I think it's not unrelated to the violence, the whole tension, and the reason why this is momentous beyond the fact that any political assassination attempt is by definition shocking and potentially historic. This feels more scary because it is part of a spiral of cruelty and violence that is driven by a very inane but relentless culture war. And that's also part of how you found yourself increasingly interested in Trump, despite being, demographically the Democrat, New York, liberal disposition.
That's right.
Black, gay, a lot of attributes that would once put you statistically in the Democratic camp. And we've discussed 4 years ago how this started shifting. I would say almost exactly 4 years ago.
Yeah. Part of it is just this disposition that I have to look for the other side, to create the counterpoint for wherever I'm standing. So I'm gay in a relationship. And we went to the Gay Pride March in New York City recently. Of course, we belong, and it was fun, and we have our friends, but I was critical throughout. Like, I felt like a kind of outsider, insider there as well. Like, these are my people, I'm gay, I get it, I'm actually enjoying it. And then I was like, this is kind of sad. It feels too reductive. It's just like, it's too much identity, it's too much of a box. And I was kind of annoyed with the people that were sort of overly identifying with it.
It being the gay pride parade.
Yeah, but to your point about politics, the best way I can say what drew me to Trump in the first place last election, then, and probably even now, has virtually nothing to do with Trump, but the fact of my own annoyance for what I experienced then and experienced perhaps even more now as this fear of the overreach of the left, especially the far left. Like, this overreach is something I'm against. I wish that we could recover a real sort of healthy conservative movement, where it's not extreme. And it's like, wow, why can't we have like really good, honest, conservative values that are not so extreme, they're able to sort of integrate things with the left and Democrats as well. So that's sort of the stuff of the politics for me.
And to clarify, I mean, you do see Trump as extreme on the right and not the kind of ideal conservative that you'd wish to see, or you see the.
That's right. Okay. Yeah, I mean, my wish would be, gosh, wouldn't this be nice to have just some other options other than Trump and Biden? Two new candidates that really represented something else. But that's.
But you probably wouldn't go to a Biden rally because there's not really a cult of Biden to observe, right? Or would you?
Yeah, that's right. No, you're right. There's very little intrigue in that sense.
But you also predominantly were more interested in Trump as a force.
Yes.
As a force that is countervailing to the dogma that's around you, right?
That's right.
Specifically, we were exchanging very heated texts in the past couple of weeks, which some kind of culmination during the Dyke March, with you feeling angry, suffocated, at points like almost furious at what you were seeing happening in those movements, which was you saw as being overtaken by a desire for radicalism, a desire for violence, for destruction, for many other things that have very little to do with the sort of hard-earned dignity that you attributed or you associated with the Pride movement when you moved to New York.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, I was especially annoyed with. I would have liked gay pride to be about, sort of gay gratitude. Like the astounding gratitude that we have to have gotten through some really intense struggles. Like, I came of age during AIDS and how scary that was. And like a lot of, friends that I know that they didn't make it, having gotten through that and a lot of the other struggles. Like, I think of Pride as a moment of like remembering that, being grateful, celebrating the freedom. For me this year, it felt too much like co-opted by the politics around free Palestine, free Gaza. And it was just like, whoa, like, can we have a break from that? It's like, I think it's a noble struggle and an intense debate that I'm fine to jump in on. But it's like, this one too, like college graduations, it got so much attention. And then here it was like.
I also going to dispute that it's a noble struggle. It's an ignoble struggle, but we will discuss this another time.
It's a struggle that's worthy of, debating and talking about, but it was like, on that day, I was thinking, even here, like it's overshadowing an event that is not about that. So like the fact that gay pride had become so sort of political in that sense was part of what you're talking about. Really annoyed me.
By the imperialism of the far left.
Yes.
So and a lot of the things that you were talking to me about in reference to that was that sense of violence, of turmoil, of almost a desire to instigate on the far left, which is almost the antithesis of the gratitude that you were looking for. It's a movement based on resentment, constant self-fueling anger, overboiling of urges that is craving the conflict.
Yeah.
How much does that play when you go into the Trump rally in the back of your mind in terms of seeking some sort of integration, seeking a version of a crossed over America?
Guess what? My fantasy didn't work. I didn't really get this grand,
reconciliation.
No, like that's where we were. Like, I was kind of disappointed. Oh my gosh, like, yeah, it may be a refreshing break for me, like just being annoyed. Like when you get annoyed with New York City, you go to the country, you're like, oh, wow, look, I'm refreshed for a couple of days. And you're like, okay, good. Thank God I'm going back to New York.
Yeah.
So it sort of like that. I was like, oh, this is like, we even looked at each other and said, this isn't different, really. It's kind of sad.
Me and Nancy French joke that she lives in rural Tennessee, and we often joke that we each need to swap houses for a week to be surrounded by the other person's political cult to be able to come back and deal with our own without too much.
Goodness.
No, losing
That's
it.
Exactly right.
So yeah, so let's back it up a little bit. What was it like when you arrived, and then give us a little timeline of what happens up to the shooting?
So we got there so early. it was an interesting excursion, like an excursion with my childhood place where I grew up, Western Pennsylvania, just outside of Pittsburgh. I feel like, these are very much my people in a certain sense. So I was just enjoying being there with my partner. It's on this big farm in Butler County. As we approached it, there was, a vendor on the side of the road selling the merch. So we were like, oh, so we pull over. So like everything was like we were really doing the thing, like we're participating in the whole event. And so, neither one of us wanted anything that actually said Trump. It felt a little too intense, but we wanted to have something to be part of it. So I got this T-shirt that, like, we the people. That seemed like it was fine enough. I believe enough in that. It's not saying Trump, but we're still there. We got a couple buttons, and it was just fun watching the people. Like, it felt like a religious ceremony, like very culty in a sense. Like, people were greeting each other. They were sort of waving and beeping the horn when they were going by. There was this deep sense of belonging, and there we were.
And no sense of being on the outs at all? You felt totally welcomed?
No, totally welcome. It was like, a love fest. Everyone's presuming that everyone there is for Trump, so it was sort of easy breezy in that way. Like, on the one hand, I somehow was just enjoying the fact that I could be there in a certain way as such an outsider. It's like, coming from New York City almost as a spy. And then on the other end, I thought, but this is very much, my people. I grew up in Pittsburgh. I went to college near Butler County, and all the little chats that I was having with people around us, it felt natural. At some point it felt, it even felt fun. I was kind of imagining how excited I would be to talk to New Yorkers or people who would be shocked that I was at a Trump rally. I'd want to report. It wasn't really that bad. It's not what you think. It's just people getting along, excited. And then another part of me was just very sad. I thought, wow, there's something sad about this. It felt too culty. And then, we were thinking, it's kind of boring. I mean, at one point I said to my partner, I said, it's so boring, isn't it, to feel like you're in one camp? Like, right. I was starting to get a little disgusted. I was like, they're obsessed with talking about Biden. They're obsessed with talking about the other side. They're obsessed with, like, the affiliation that comes from wearing the merch. And like, wow, we're all the other side right now. So I just thought, I felt a little sad. I felt bored. And then I thought, well, it's the same way on the left. The left is sort of the same. So there were moments of kind of feeling depressed about that. I was getting really annoyed. We both were getting annoyed at just how long it was taking for him to come.
How long did you wait until he got on stage?
Oh my goodness, it was like 2 hours.
And in between, is there anything going on? Like, are you looking at anything, like other people talking, or is it just?
There were a couple, like, sort of local political speakers, and then they had basically, at one point I said, this is a concert. They had like all the top hits of like rock songs, country songs. There were like music videos. So people were just sort of jamming and dancing. And at one point I said to another Gen Xer, wow, they're playing all the good music from like our generation. He's like, yeah, so there was that. The last sort of fuzzy memory I had was, people helping each other out. It was so hot. People were passing water around to one another, and it just was like, oh, okay, it's very, very communal. Trump finally arrives, and that's when, everyone perked up, of course, and they were like sort of crazy, screaming and cheering. And he was kind of amazing. It was like, it was like quintessential Trump. He comes out, he launches right in. He's funny. We were laughing. There was a lot of energy. It was like, it was fun hearing him do his thing. And I just kept saying, wow, he's working the crowd. And we were all laughing at him doing his thing. It wasn't even 5 minutes in, quickly turned to immigration. And he said something like, oh, get that slide up. Can you get that slide up for me? So the slide came up, and he's now about to go through and talk about how the lowest numbers of illegal immigrants were, correlated to his time in office. And he just made that point. People were cheering. And this point, Mario, my partner, he said to me, look, he said, the Secret Service, they're actually ready to shoot, something like that. They're ready. Like he looked up and I looked up, and on the roof where they had been the whole time, like they were perched up on a roof looking out over the left of where we were, which is like, it was an empty field next to where the event was. They actually had their like rifles drawn, like they were about to shoot. And like seconds after that, they were shooting. And the shooting was like back and forth, like several shots. And I said, get down. And so we get on the ground, and like everyone in that area, we were literally lying down on the ground. And while I was down there, I was looking up, I could see them actively shooting toward that field.
So what we know from the very limited reporting that we have right now, and it's very important to point out that we're releasing this only a few hours after the incident happened.
Yeah.
So we really have close to zero real reporting beyond your eyewitness account and some notes that we're getting from the Secret Service and from the Pennsylvania police. There were a couple of shots, real shots. So I think the local police confirmed that those were real shots. Trump, who was seen in the video, grabbed his ear and then being basically body slammed to the ground by the Secret Service around him, started bleeding. So something hit him. And as far as we know, it's more likely glass shards from the teleprompter that got hit. There seems to have been somebody at the rally who also got hit. I don't know their condition, but it seems that the people were hurt in the process, were not just the assailant. So that's basically all we know right now in terms of the actual facts. But from the reporting that I'm seeing, those were real bullets, not just as some outlets reported immediately loud sounds. Some of the headlines were Trump falls after loud sounds are heard in the rally. How did the crowd react?
If the first thing I remember was just everyone was silent, like there was this immediate, sudden silence, and you just hear gunshots going back and forth. I mean, it was just utter silence and gunshots. You knew, like, to be there, you knew that it was a back and forth. You know what I mean? It's like, I keep saying that, but that's, like, I knew they were shooting at someone that was also shooting back, and it was literally right to the side of us. Like, we were near the fence that was against the field that was otherwise open. And I say that because it's like that field, like, there were a couple of times while we were waiting that we were both thinking like, wow, like there doesn't seem to be that much security. Like literally there's just an open field, no cars. And on the other side of the field, there were locals that had brought their lawn chairs and they were sitting at the far end of the field. So it's like, oh, there's an open field. And the only thing guarding that field were the sharpshooter Secret Service that we kept looking at on the roof. So we were like, oh, okay. We felt very, very safe. But I just remember they kept looking towards that field the entire time, I guess, because that was the only security.
Well, was the idea of safety even on your mind before seeing the sharpshooters? Were you going into this rally thinking, hey, I'm in deep gun country, a rally that is generally considered highly contentious?
Okay. So this is now, like, this question is the first time while we're talking now that I feel very emotional and intense because my partner kept saying that he really wasn't comfortable going because of safety. And I kept dismissing. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be the safest place in the world. I mean, like, it's a Trump rally in Pennsylvania. They love Trump. There's nothing to worry about. It's going to be the safest place. But he really kept asking me, are you sure it's going to be safe?
And can I just ask about that a little bit more? Because please correct me if I'm wrong, but if I were you and I were a gay couple going to a Trump rally, I would be making some assumptions, which might not be fair, but that's part of my worry for my safety would be as a gay couple going into a very potentially conservative or anti-gay space.
Yeah, I mean, he was concerned about that. And I didn't take it that seriously. I just kept saying, oh no, it's like...
Sorry, I want to understand what he was concerned about. Was he concerned about people from the outside agitating, or was he concerned about having people in MAGA world being anti-gay?
That. It was just as Vanessa asked, he shared the same basic concern. It wasn't overly intense. It was just like, hey, I mean, you know, the subtext was, this is not the group where you're going to be completely comfortable. And I kept dismissing it thinking, but if we're here, It's like if we're here, we're obviously okay with Trump, and that's what everybody's thinking. Not a big deal.
That's the actually important fault line in terms of putting you at risk for violence at a Trump rally. I'm wondering just about this gay angle, which interestingly I would not have been particularly concerned about, but what do I know? Did you notice people clocking that you were a gay couple?
Not at all. You said not at all? Yeah, not at all. There was not one moment, like not even a remote moment of feeling awkward or...
We were not holding hands.
Yeah, no, it's true. We weren't holding hands as we very regularly do in New York City and other places. But still, I mean, people could, we weren't really hiding it either, I don't think. But there were no awkward moments around that.
Let me ask you this, just to be provocative. Where did you feel more comfortable with Mario? The Trump rally in Pennsylvania or the Dyke March in New York City?
This is a very interesting question. It's not a fair comparison because I certainly did not feel physically unsafe at the Dyke March, but I felt annoyed. I felt more annoyed. Yeah, I felt it was more. It's interesting. No, I'll answer it a different way. It's not fair to say I felt unsafe there because I didn't, but I felt greater hostility. I felt like there was aggressive hostility at the Dyke March, whereas here, really, I felt like it was at home, comfortable. So this is, when those shots were happening, you know what I was thinking? I was feeling so scared, like, oh my goodness, I basically promised my partner safety because I thought we would be safe with Trump supporters in Pennsylvania. But I never thought that we would be at risk for someone wanting to shoot Donald Trump, if that's indeed what was happening.
So again, yes, it's being investigated as an attempted assassination of Donald Trump, but until we know,
we don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know that. I didn't see Trump grab his ear and go down because I was looking at the Secret Service and I heard the shots and then we hit the ground. So I never looked up at him. And this one woman was standing up and she was screaming and there were people screaming. She was screaming and I said to her, get down. And she said, oh, I can't because of my knee. And I was like, oh my God, she couldn't get down. So she was just standing up. And then eventually we stood up and that's when we saw the Secret Service completely, circled around Trump. They were circled around him like that. And then we started exiting.
And I mean, you didn't mention this earlier, but I'm assuming it was fairly orderly getting out. It wasn't like panic getting out.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't panicky.
And then what has the tenor of the news segments been that you've been watching? Has it felt in keeping with your experience or has it felt not accurate or just different in terms of vibe?
The only difference is a few of the pundits that we heard or the experts.
Which channel have you been watching?
CNN. When a few people would say something like, oh, we weren't sure if it was gunshots, it was gunshots. There was no doubt in my mind. It was gunshots and there was a back and forth. It wasn't like, oh, was it fireworks or was it this? It was like, no. And where we were, we were to the right of Trump. We were to the far side of the fence, which I'm assuming that's the direction from which the shot was coming. It was so close. We could hear it so close because we were right there.
Yeah. Have you seen the images?
I did. Yeah.
There are 2 or 3 pictures that are already coming out of this, which you can tell without a doubt are going to be historical. Kudos on the photographer. Trump on his knees, hiding behind the podium.
Yeah.
With his ear bleeding. And there is one of him rising and shaking his fist. And if you see the video, you can hear, or at least can see his lips musitating, fight, fight, fight.
Yes.
It's a little scary too.
It is scary.
And the flag is waving behind him. It is not going to be forgotten, this image.
I mean, the news, what we saw on CNN was a confirmed death, that one of the rally goers is dead. They confirmed that. It's just like, wow. I mean, it went from like hearing his opening and then suddenly like gunshots, total silence. And I'm like thinking, is this really happening? And then on the way out, I mean, you made me think of this because you said it's scary in a way. Fist up, keep fighting. Yeah. There were people there at the rally saying things like, Biden did this and this is Biden. You know, my thing was, I was thinking, gosh, like this is not the time for that. Like this was so scary for all of us. And I genuinely felt like compassion and care for Trump. I hope he's okay. My goodness, who could do this? Like, so, but immediately this sort of assigning blame to the other side and this, that, you know, that too was scary. Yes.
Can you describe how that blame assignment happened?
I don't know. A random person said, this is Biden. You know, someone will start and there's kind of like a call and response almost. Like, so someone said that and a couple of people said, yes, that's right. This is Biden, you know, like, you know, look at what they've done or something, you know, a few things like that. You just heard random comments and then other people responded to. And I was just like, this is like, no.
Dom, I Googled that image that you're talking about. It is very heroic.
Yeah.
He's like kind of defiant. Like the Secret Service is trying to shove him in the car and he's defiantly like raising his fist to the crowd. Like I think trying to show strength in this moment. It's
funny because I mean, my emotions are intense and fresh because this just happened. But it's so funny to notice I think it's a different take. Maybe it's a different emotional take because I was there. Being there, it's what we needed. Like when there were people screaming, and the shots were still going on. And then when it stopped, they must have seen the fist because the crowd started cheering. I got to tell you, I felt a sense of strength from that. And I was like, yes, our leader is showing some strength. The nervous crowd needed that. Like we sort of got through it for now and let's get out of here.
Yeah.
Like, it's funny. There was someone there, like there was one guy that was walking with the last bit of the walk to the car, and he said something like, if he was hit and he survives it, there's no way he's going to lose. And even I was thinking, for me, it was too soon, even with him, to be thinking about that. Like I didn't want to think about politics yet.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Do you regret going, Misha?
No, I don't regret going.
Why would you regret going?
Well, because he put his life on the line unknowingly.
But also got to experience history.
I mean, yes, I thought about it twice because I thought, wow, my partner was worried and I probably should have listened more. But even in that and looking back, I don't think I did anything irresponsible. I don't think it was a kind of risk that would be likely to put me in that kind of danger. So that's why I don't regret it.
Kind of crazy that they let people stand behind the candidate. Now that I think,
my gosh,
those are the people in the line of fire.
They were right there. Yeah.
Somebody died. Like,
yeah.
And thank God it wasn't you, Misha, and it wasn't Mario, but like they could have been theoretically.
I'll tell you why. Here's another reason why I think I'm glad I went. I had this experiential sense where, you know what, violence just is too much. You know what I mean? There was a feeling of it's so unfair. I was like, wait, like there was this kind of innocence, like, wait, these are just innocent. Like it doesn't call for that. Like these are innocent people. This is Trump. He's a political, you know what I mean? It just like being there and feeling vulnerable makes me, I don't know. I'm not sure I can explain it.
Well, I think you should just, go hold your partner.
Yes, good idea.
Be grateful that you've got each other still, and we're grateful that you guys are still here. And thank you for sharing, because I know I'm sure it's going to be on loop in your mind for the next.
Yeah, I mean it's so fresh and raw, but I kind of appreciate being able to talk about it immediately. So thanks so much for listening and asking the questions.